the time has come for me to give my record prediction for the Cornhuskers. This season is a very important season for Nebraska. And if Nebraska wants to make separation from the middle of the pack to the worst of the Big Ten teams, Nebraska has to start by accomplishing some notable feats in this season. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Nebraska starts off by playing the Ohio Bobcats. Ohio, under John Hauser as their head coach, is a team that, in my opinion, is not going to beat Nebraska. Now, here's why. First of all, they're in the MAC conference, which is just so much inferior to the Big Ten in every single way. They did do fine in the MAC conference. They went 9-4. They won the Frisco Bowl and actually beat UNLV, where Calandria was. However, that being said, for them to beat Nebraska in Lincoln is so unlikely. Ohio, there's no one that's scared. They are not a high-octane team. And I think these next two opponents after Ohio are not teams that Nebraska should be worried about in any fashion. If we lose any one of these three games, Nebraska's going to have a very, very long season ahead of them. But that's why I believe Nebraska will beat Ohio 45-14 and start off 1-0. Then Nebraska plays Bowling Green. Now, Bowling Green, they are a MAC school as well. They are a sub-tier MAC team. Like they're not that good in the MAC conference. They're kind of like Akron. Maybe a little better than Akron, but not much better. They have their head coach is Eddie George, and we've actually never played Bowling Green before. We played Ohio, and we beat them 59-0 back in 1959, but we've never played Bowling Green. But once again, just like Ohio, there's no one on Bowling Green that scares me. Bowling Green is just not a good team compared to Nebraska, and that's why I believe Nebraska beats the Bowling Green Falcons. Beat them 57-0, even better than the Ohio Bobcats, and move to 2-0. Then Nebraska plays the North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Their head coach is Eric Schmidt. The last time we played them was 2022. We beat them 38-17. That was Scott Frost's last win. And I might just say this. If Scott Frost can beat them, I think Matt Rhule can beat him. They're a competitive FCS school, but the FCS does not compare to the FBS, particularly the Big Ten, just in any shape or form. Nebraska, with a better roster, better resources, better coaching, just better everything, is going to beat North Dakota 48-7. Move on to 3-0. Now, I just might say this before we get to Michigan State. You might be wondering why I'm giving such high numbers to Nebraska. Well, I believe that these three schools are just not good at all. I believe none of them are going to just, shock Nebraska. None of them will. Nebraska is going to beat them bad. That's why I have Nebraska shutting out Bowling Green. If that happens, it'd be the second shutout in 2 years. So I think give me Nebraska to win these games well. Now, of course, it would have been nice if Tennessee was on there. That's probably true. But, I think if I can see why Matt Rhule did this, because he wants to instill confidence in his team. And that makes sense. And he also wants to have, cupcakes. I get that. But Tennessee would have been fun. But anyway, let's get to Michigan State. Conference opener on the road. It's kind of funny. Nebraska's not won a conference opener since 2019, where we squeaked Illinois 42-38 in Champaign. Here's the funny thing I've noticed. Nebraska either plays a solid team in conference openers, or they play a team about their level on the road. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that, but they've never played like a weaker team in conference openers. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that fact. That's kind of a detail I've noticed. Ever since 2020, we usually played a team that was way better than us, and they would beat us bad, or a team that's about our level or slightly better than us that would beat us because we're on the road. You can go back, 2020, well, that was Ohio State, lost to them, and they're much better than us. Illinois in 2021, they're on the road. 2022, that would have been Northwestern. Now that game was just because literally Scott Frost was dumb. 2023 was Minnesota on the road, and that's a tough place because that was Matt Rule's first game as a head coach. And also a tough place to win if you're a first-year head coach. So anyway, let's get to Michigan State. They are a team that is under first-year head coach Pat Fitzgerald. Pat Fitzgerald is a slow rebuilder, okay? He's a slow rebuilder, and also he's not coached since 2022. So I think he's going to be a little bit behind the times in terms of NIL and the transfer portal, okay? Now, that being said, he does bring in decent players, but I also think he has decent players. Like, I think he's got a decent quarterback in Alessio Milivojevic. He's got Jordan Hall. He's a solid player for sure. Jasmine Patterson to add depth to that running back room. He's going to be good, okay? Because he was not bad at Iowa, okay? You can't deny that. You also got Cam Edwards. He's a good running back. You also got Kenneth Williams to be on the special teams. I think he's going to be good for their special teams for sure, especially since they bring LeVar Woods from Iowa as a special teams coordinator, and he's going to make those special teams pretty darn good, okay? That's the truth. So, Michigan State, though, they still are lacking on their defensive line. They're lacking at receiver. They are, in my opinion, their offensive line isn't too whoopee. It's going to be better. I think we have a decent offensive lines coach, but nonetheless, it's not going to be that great. They do keep Joe Rossi on the defensive coordinator position, and he'll be fine, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I still think that Michigan State, I don't think they're going to make that big of a jump in year one. They're going to be a mediocre program. Pat Fitzgerald is not like some Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti is an exception to the rules of college football, and that's why I think that Nebraska, on the road, breaks that bad streak of conference openers and beats Michigan State 31-17 to be 4-0 for the first time since 2016. Then we play the Maryland Terrapins. Now, the Maryland Terrapins, they are a team that has a lot of talent, and they're also the most experienced Big Ten team. They have a lot of talent and a lot of potential. Like, let me put it this way. If Curt Cignetti was coaching Maryland right now, and Mike Locksley was coaching Indiana, Maryland would be winning national championships probably every year, and Indiana would be worse than they probably were with Tom Allen. And that's the truth. That being said, though, Maryland does not have Curt Cignetti as their head coach, okay? They have good play. Malik Washington, he's a great player. They got DeJuan Williams at the running back room, and he's going to be good. He was their best running back for sure last year. They also got Zahir Mathis and Sidney Stewart, a pair of great defensive ends, in my opinion. Like, they have talent all around, okay? They do. The problem is they don't have a good coaching staff. They never really have since Locksley's gotten there. Maryland has been a bad team under Locksley. Now, in terms of the non-conference, that's never been a problem for Maryland. It's been the conference play. They are not a physical program. When October rolls around, they really go down, okay? They usually start off 3-0. That's not a shocker. Like, don't be shocked when they start off 3-0. The problem is that they just can't win in October to November. Like, that's their biggest problem. They just have not been able to win in those months. I mean, obviously Nebraska doesn't do much better, but we usually do win more games in October than we do, we win more games in October than Maryland. So that's why I think, despite the fact that Maryland's got great talent, I don't think it's going to be enough. Under the lights of Memorial Stadium, we have a better defense, better defensive coordinator, better offensive line, I think a better quarterback too, much more experienced, I think better special teams even. We're also much more disciplined, I might add. Maryland is so undisciplined, it's not even funny. I think the only thing they really have above us might be running back room, but even then, we'll see how that turns out. I think EJFL, I trust his coaching. He's a good coach, just slow. So, I think Nebraska beats Maryland, and I believe we beat Maryland 35-14. We don't lose, we beat them a little better than we do when we squeaked them last year in College Park, obviously, 34-31. Nebraska goes 5-0, which again is the first time since 2016. But then good old Indiana comes to town. Indiana. What do I say? Actually, I'll tell you what you say. Indiana, purely, is just a great team. I would not be surprised if they win a national championship this year, because they have a great coach in Curt Cignetti, a great coaching staff. Like, don't be surprised. Like, he being Corsinetti is just a great, great coach. I will say this again and again and again. He's a good coach. However, that being said, I think getting him at home does improve our chances slightly. But don't think I'm going to have Nebraska upsetting Indiana here, because that's not going to happen. But I do believe that having them at home does help a lot. And we're not going to lose to them 7-56. That's what I'm trying to say here. They have great players like Charlie Becker at receiver, Elijah Hardy at linebacker, Carter Smith at offensive tackle, and Josh Hoover at quarterback from TCU. I think he's going to be great. Also, they bring in Turbo Richard on the running back. He's going to be good. We played Turbo Richard in the Pinstripe Bowl in 2024. He's probably going to want revenge. I don't know if you guys have noticed Indiana's pattern, but they tend to recruit or bring in seasoned running backs and quarterbacks. Roman Hemby last year. Also brought in Fernando Mendoza. Before that, they had Justice Ellison, which they brought in from James Madison. Also, don't forget, what was his name? Curtis Rourke. He's a great player. And so, I believe that Indiana is just going to beat us. And I think they're going to beat us solidly. Now, people say Nebraska should not have any blowouts, but they're going to. It's going to happen. Bo Pelini had blowouts in the Big Ten. Now, that was not his fault. That's because he was still getting his trenches recruited and developed to the style of play in the Big Ten. So, to me, that's the biggest, the biggest expectation that's going to be broken. Nebraska will lose to Indiana at home. Not 7-56, 17-38. Nebraska goes 5-1, and they're going to be 5-1 for the third consecutive season. Then we go to good old Oregon. Good old Oregon, and they're going to be a fun team to play in Autzen Stadium, where Dan Lanning and his crew is going to be great. Now, here's the first thing I'll say about Oregon. Their logo stands for how many national championships they've won. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what I was going to say. They're a very good team. They just haven't won a national championship yet because they have bad luck in the postseason. Oregon has a great coaching staff and a great recruiting class, and they always develop. They have Dante Moore, great quarterback. They bring in Corey Parrish, a defensive back. He's going to be good for them. They bring in Amari Washington on the defensive line. They have Bear Alexander, also on the defensive line. They also have Ipani Lalolu on their offensive line. He's a good offensive lineman. Like, they're a good team. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Oregon is good. They're a great team. I was just joking when I said, well, it's not actually a fact, but I was just kind of joking around when I said that Oregon, their logo stands for how many national championships they have. It's just kind of a funny thing because they're going to beat us, and they're going to beat us badly, in my opinion. Or they probably will beat us badly, but that's not what I'm predicting necessarily. However, I do believe in Nebraska, they're probably going to want to play up a little bit because, well, they don't have anything to lose. Oregon has everything to lose if they lose this game. But also because of what Dylan Raiola's been saying, like what he said about like Oregon having better talent than Nebraska, and like saying how there's no cornfields in Oregon, which to me that's, I mean, obviously there's an article that said this, but I 100% agree. Like, it's kind of dumb that he would say that because literally the Big Ten's a Midwestern conference. Anyway, I digress. I think that Nebraska will play better than the spread will say, and I believe we lose to Oregon 28-42 and drop to 5-2 overall, but still not losing in horrendous fashion. Then Nebraska plays the Washington Huskies. We get them at home, and that's the biggest advantage right there. Washington plays way worse on the road than they do when they're in Seattle. They are 3-7 on the road, okay? They are 3-7, and that's the truth. 3-7 on the road, and let me tell you their 3 wins on the road since Jed Fish has gotten there, and since they've been in the Big Ten. 1, they beat Washington State. That doesn't count. In-state recruit. 2, UCLA. That also doesn't count because they're a former Pac-12 opponent. 3, and this is the only true Big Ten road game that counts. Maryland, last year, beat them by 4, 24-20, in a game where they're actually down most of the time, but ended up coming back to win the game. Washington has great players. Damon Williams, he's a great quarterback, and he's going to be pretty darn good for them this year. They also got Jacob Lane, and he's an edge rusher, and I think he's going to be good for them. They also got Desmond Roebuck at wide receiver, and he's a very good wide receiver. Alex McLaughlin at safety. He's a very capable safety, and I think he's pretty darn good. The last time we played Washington was actually at home, where we beat them 51-48, and obviously that was, 15 years ago, a decade and a half ago. That being said, getting that home, though, is, like I said, major advantage. Major advantage. I think they're even worse than USC on the road, and that's saying something. So, getting Washington to play like they do in Seattle, in Memorial Stadium, on Halloween, after Nebraska's bye week, in a very raucous environment, I don't see it. I believe Nebraska beats Washington 24-17 and moves on to 6-2, getting bowl eligibility in October for the second consecutive year. Then Nebraska plays Illinois. And we're slight favorites against Illinois. Illinois has had our number. They've beaten us 4 of the last 5 times since 2020. And Bielema has beaten us 3 out of the last 4 times. Illinois is, in my opinion, not going to be as good, though, as they were 2 years ago, particularly, when we lost them in overtime, 24-31. They don't have Pat Bryant. They do not have Luke Altmaier, who is honestly the big reason why we lost them in that game. They do not have Gabe Jacas. And that right there, those are some key players. They don't even have Hank Betty anymore. He's gone. But that being said, they just don't have a good offensive line anymore. Not this year. They don't have a good defensive line. They have a lot of shoes to fill. They are, in my opinion, they're taking a step back. They also lost their defensive coordinator, Aaron Henry, which is a big loss. They bring in Bobby Hawk, who, in my opinion, I think that's kind of a bad hire because, yes, he may have done good in Montana, but he's a guy that literally retired. So bringing a guy out of retirement, do you think he's really hungry to achieve and succeed well? Not in my opinion. That doesn't mean he's going to be bad, but a track record for coaches is they do tend to do better at one spot where they've been for a long time than they do at a spot where they've just started going. I believe that's just how Bobby Hawk will be. And also, using the 3-3-5 is a big mistake, especially with that defensive line they're going to have. Big mistake. They should never use the 3-3-5. There's a reason why Matt Campbell told his defensive coordinator to switch to a 4-2-5. Or at least, maybe not told, but he's had their defensive scheme switch to a 4-2-5. You can't have a 3-3-5 in the Big Ten. That's a run-heavy conference. If you can't stop the run in the Big Ten, you're not going to stop nothing. Nebraska should be able to exploit that. We have a way better offensive line than them. We have a better receiving core. We have, in my opinion, a better quarterback than Kane Hauser. We have a better secondary. We have a better defensive coordinator. I think the only thing we will have weaker than is running back. They do have talent. I'm not saying this. They have Khalil Valentine at running back. He's good. They have Caden Hauser, who I think is going to be good for them, just not as good as Anthony Calandria. They have Caden Fegan at tight end. He's going to be really good, in my opinion. They also return Xavier Scott, who, although he's injured, he's a good defensive player. So, definitely want to say that. But nonetheless, I believe that Nebraska, on the road, gets back-to-back, or starts their first chance, and only chance, to get back-to-back road wins by beating Illinois 26-17 on the road. We moved to 7-2 on the season, 3-2 conference. No, 4-2 actually. 4-2 conference. Then we play the good old Rutgers Scarlet Knights, a team that we've never had to look at, sadly, after the game's over. We've never lost to Rutgers. We're 7-0 with them overall. That being said, that can't change here. We can't walk away 7-1 with Rutgers. We have to be 8-0. Rutgers, their defense is terrible. Okay, yes, they've replaced that terrible defensive line coach, and they also replaced their defensive coordinator, but they're not as good as I believe Rob Orich and Corey Brown are. So That being said, I think their defense is going to kill them. They're going to be terrible on the defensive side. So, to me, Nebraska, very good offensive line, with a mobile quarterback, is going to exploit that heavily. But I think the Rutgers are terrible, because they're not. They have two great athletes that come to my mind as immediately as I think of them. Antoine Raymond and KJ Duff. Those are their two biggest impact players. Those two guys are very good. The Rutgers does a decent job of developing guys to the NFL. They do. Actually, they've probably done a better job than Nebraska in some instances. But they don't have anything Kyle McManus anymore. They don't have Kyle Monangai anymore. And even then, actually, we still beat them. I believe Nebraska beats the Rutgers Scarlet Knights 28-14 and moves to 8-2 on the season, 5-2 conference, and we would be securing our first winning record in conference play for the first time since 2016. And boy, oh boy, will that be a happy day if this happens. We also would achieve back-to-back road wins for the first time since 2006, which I might add, that was the penultimate year of the Bill Callahan era, and this would be amazing. Like, this would be absolutely amazing if this happened, and I believe it will happen. We never achieved this in the Big Ten, because I was in the Big 12 when that happened. So, give me Nebraska to win this game, and move on to 8-2. Then we play the Ohio State Buckeyes, and the Ohio State Buckeyes, they're a very good team. In fact, the year we barely lost to them, they won the national championship. That doesn't mean I think we're going to beat them, okay? We get them at home, that improves our chances ever so slightly. But if we can't compete with them until the fourth quarter, when we're definitely a weaker team in 2024, then I believe that we could definitely compete with them something sort of the same in 2026. They got a great head coach in Ryan Day. I mean, they got good players. Julian Sain's a good player. Jeremiah Smith is a great wide receiver. And also, I think Jalen McLean, good defensive player for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Those are just three good players in my mind that I see on this roster for Ohio State. I mean, they got a lot of good players all over. However, we shall see how Ohio State will do against Nebraska. They do have a pretty tough schedule, though. Despite being a very good team, they have a tough schedule. I mean, their road games are tough. I mean, playing in November against us won't be easy for them. And I don't think that they're going to just come away with a cakewalk. I think we're going to play them competitively. I do believe we lose, but we lose competitively. So, Ohio State wins this game, but I believe they win 17-14, and I believe they win with a walk-off field goal. That's how I believe this game is going to go down, and I believe Nebraska drops to 8-3, 5-3 overall, but nonetheless, feeling pretty happy because they lost competitively to the Buckeyes for the second consecutive meeting. Then we play our good old buddies out in Iowa City, the Iowa Hawkeyes. If you guys hate them as much as me, please like this video, because I sure do hate Iowa. I really, really do. I heard someone say to me one time, it's not good to hate, but you can hate Iowa. And I totally agree. Iowa sucks. I do not like Iowa. I never have, I never will. They're a dumb team that just beats Nebraska because they think they're important. That's how it is. Simple as that. That being said, they do develop good players. They have a great defense. They're just annoying. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I say these things because they're just annoying. Like, they're really annoying to lose to because they're not, like, fun to watch. They kick field goals, and they just do stuff like that. Like, you know your team is not a good offensive team when your MVP of your offense is your kicker. Like, in 2024. Now, that wasn't the case last year because our defensive line was struggling a little bit. But, that being said, I just don't see Nebraska beating Iowa. I know you guys are like, what? I know. I do not like Iowa, but I can't predict Nebraska to beat Iowa until I see it. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a special teams coordinator that's going to win for them. They don't have Drew Stevens, but they have Kamari Moulton. He's a good running back. They also have Zach Lutmer at safety, and he's a good player. Trevor Locke on their offensive line. Also, Cade Piper is their center. He's very good. Also, DJ Vanahame at their tight end. He's a good tight end. They have enough players. I think they're going to be tough to play against. They don't have much of a defensive line, and that's going to help. I think Nebraska's offensive line should dominate, but Iowa is at their best in November. And while I think that Nebraska should beat them. I believe we could beat them. I think all signs point to yes, we should beat them, but I think I'm with the matchup predictor here. I mean, sure, we have the talent on our side. Sure, we have the roster advantage. Sure, we might even have some of the coaching staff advantages. But Kirk Ferentz is Kirk Ferentz, and he's beaten Nebraska too many times. Too many times that I care to, more times than I care to admit. More times than I care to count, either. So, I think Iowa wins this game 13-10. And yes, I think we'll lose in a slugfest. I think it's going to happen. We're probably going to jump up like 10-0 like we did in 2024. They're just going to kick like 12 field goals. No, I'm just kidding. They're going to kick, and they're probably going to get like some garbage touchdown, like some lucky touchdown. And then they're going to get another field goal or two, and they're going to beat us. So that's how it's going to happen. I don't wish this would happen. Obviously, no Nebraska fan wants us to lose to Iowa. No one wants to lose to Iowa again. They're annoying to lose to. It's one thing when you lose to a very good Oklahoma Sooners team. But nonetheless, like, it's a completely different horse of a different color losing to someone like Iowa, where they're not even fun to watch. Like, they're boring. That's the truth. Like, literally, they are not fun to watch. Now, they still win, and that's the most frustrating part about it, because they're boring, but yet they win. Because their defense is good. But nonetheless, I do think their defense takes a step back, and their special teams. But we'll see how Nebraska can do against the Hawkeyes. But I would love it if we beat them, but I can't predict it here. Nebraska falls to 8-4, 5-4 conference play, and I believe that I think the Nebraska fans will be happy because we're 8-4, but they're not going to be happy that we lost to Iowa. And that's what I think is going to happen. Anyway, guys, that is it for me today. I will see you guys in the next one. Till next time, go Big Red, go Matt Rule. Oh, and I sure do hope, although I'm predicting against it, I hope Nebraska could thump Iowa. Please.